Hello there. You're really most welcome to join me on my YouTube channel today. And the flight that we're embarking upon today really is just to give the new cameras a bit of a run out. It's a gloriously blue, sunny, clear skied day. The visibility is great. It's just right for doing some photography. So we're going to take the aircraft out, line up and take off and see how we get on. We're backtracking down the runway at Head Airfield to depart. We'll shortly turn around and then head off in an easterly direction. Unfortunately, as we took off, or as we reached the liftoff speed, which in this aircraft is 60 miles an hour, the airspeed indicator failed. Now, it was a partial failure, which is in some ways is more dangerous than a complete failure, because as we run along the runway, normally you check that you've got an airspeed indicator that is actually indicating, and when you lift off, this aircraft lifts off at 60 and it's all fine. This airspeed indicator today reached 60 just. We lifted off, but unfortunately that was it. It didn't reach or wouldn't go any higher. Now, bearing in mind the minimal manoeuvring speed for this aircraft is rated at 60 miles an hour, it's quite a little bit hair-raising. So I made the decision to keep going out to the cliff edge and then see if I could, once we reached the cliff edge and went down towards the sea a little bit, whether we could gain a bit more airspeed and push it up, but it wouldn't have any of it. So we climbed up and back up again, but the aircraft stalls at 45, so the difference between 45 and 60 is not a great margin. And as I said, the minimal manoeuvring speed is 60 miles an hour. So I decided to try and scoot around low level. We were very, very low. We scooted out over the Salcombe Harbour entrance, along the side of East Portsmouth, as you can see below. And then the idea is to make a turn back towards Marlborough, so that we can get back around to land again. In the meantime, I'm trying to figure out what the problem is, and is it going to fail completely. I have got a GPS, which is what most people would call a sat-nav in their car, and that was giving me the correct speed indication. So I did have some backup in that respect, that the speed was actually okay, and of course the aircraft flew and it felt okay. It is possible in an emergency to fly these aircraft without any airspeed indicator, but it's not recommended at all. And as you can see, we're just curving round over Lincoln Boatyard, having flown over Salcombe Bag. It's an absolutely stunning day. We're only scooting along here at about 100 feet because I didn't really want to climb too much, because as you climb, the airspeed will bleed off. And the difference between 60 and 45 is fairly small, so if we climbed, the airspeed indicated would drop closer to the stall speed, which is not really recommended. So I kept scooting round at quite a low level, continuing just to figure out if anything was going to change. It wasn't. I have had airspeed indicator failures in the past, but usually it's a complete failure, and in which case you wouldn't even take off. But in actual fact, a partial failure is probably more dangerous than a complete failure of the airspeed indicator, because you're not quite sure whether it's going to reach any more speed or whether it's going to pack up altogether. The airspeed is regulated by a small tube on the wing, edge of the wing, which pushes air down a tube, along the wing, behind the strut, down into an instrument, the airspeed indicator, and it's all air pressure. And there are only two parts that are flexible, one at the wing root and one section down behind the airspeed indicator itself. The rest of the tube is solid. it's a solid pipe, much like you would have on the brakes of a regular car. So it's a bit of a worry. We're scooting around a fairly low level, but I need to just try and climb up a little bit before I make an attempt to land here, because you don't want to be trying to land from too low an altitude, because usually when you come into the runway at Bolthead, you can hit some turbulence and the downdraft, which will in fact push you down towards the ground if you're fairly low. So you need a decent height once you make the approach, and we're coming round to line up now fairly close to the Sawmill Cove Hotel, and we'll line up for the easterly runway and see if we can attempt to make a landing. It's always a bit of a worry when an instrument fails like that, but a partial failure, as I said, is even more troubling. So we're coming around now with the Sawmill Cove on the right hand side. The airspeed indicator is still not indicating any more than 60 miles an hour. 60 miles an hour is 10 miles below the climbing speed of the aircraft, which is 70 miles an hour. It cruises at 90 miles an hour, so you can see we're 30 miles an hour adrift of where we should be. And as we come in now, we've passed the Sawmill Hotel and we're lining up, thankfully, for the runway. And with a bit of luck, we could make an uneventful landing. And then once we get back to the hangar, we can try and work out what the problem is. But it's such a shame. It's such a lovely day, and having sort of got everything ready and taken off, only to find you get a partial failure on one of the instruments, is a little bit frustrating. But I was able to scoot round fairly low. Luckily, my old mate Dave, Fat Dave, didn't come on this little trip, because he would have been in all sorts of trouble with the added weight and him squealing. It would have been a huge distraction, so it's quite handy I was on my own. You've got the time and space to think things through. We'll taxi back to the hangar and see if we can sort out what the problem is. Well, as an update, the problem turned out to be a small fracture in the flexible part of the pipe that joins on to the downpipe that goes behind the instrument panel. There was just a small fracture which is allowing air to come out, which then reduces the effectiveness of the overall air pressure that was giving the indicated airspeed. So hence that's why we had a erroneous reading, and I've since replaced this piece of pipe now, given it a test flight, and we're back up and cooking on gas, as they say, and all's well. Thanks so much for joining me on this particular video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one, and take greatest care. Cheers for now.